change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come.
Yeah, change coming fast, days running past. We maze runners ablaze and stay numbered last. The pain that we display, you can't understand. That's why we move with the faith of David Abraham. We tryna pace where the apes be. Keys like HP, curses live at HD. Women chasing clout and brothers changing their faces. Screaming, oh God, send your son to save us.
So tired of all the pain. See all my people in is living day to day. It's hard to face. I know that on that day you can release them chains. So give him all the praise and change. Change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come.
Yeah, it's time for a change to come to my people. Cause Lord knows that we gon' treat it equal. 400 years of the same old ish. Rape, rob, kill and spoil, getting off the shit. Now check it, can barely wait for that day to come. Getting ready for that war, time to beat the drum. And to the ones trying to hold me back with bent up faces, just call me Master Eddie, trading places.
Change gon' come, and it's coming fast. I know change gon' come, cause this world won't last. I know it's so much hurt, and it's so much pain. But when them cherries come, just know the world gon' change. Why my people cry, cause they tired of lies. That's why we face the east, pray to Yahweh Shai. Cause change gon' come, prophecy says that change gon' come. Yeah.
So tired of all the pain. See all my people in is living day to day. It's hard to face. I know that on that day you can release them chains. So give him all the praise and change. Change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come.
Look, we've been trying to get up out of this, but we've been too busy worshiping some nonsense. Jesus, we want change to happen real quick, but we are stiff-necked people and we don't give a shit. Our women all up on Instagram, shaking and twerking their ass like they don't give a damn. And if we really want change, we gotta open our book and be baptized again. We gotta change.
So tired of all the pain. See all my people in is living day to day. It's hard to face. I know that on that day you can release them chains. So give him all the praise and change. Change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come.
Change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come, you know change gon' come, change gon' come. Rattling the scripts that change gon' come.
All praises to the Most High. And I ain't letting know. Tell the devil it ain't enough. Nah. I know what you going sure if they had their way, I been stopped. See, I can see them from a mile away. They in the cut, know how I play. Never been the fool, won't start the day. And I'ma play my part. Much is given, much required. I won't let them treat me out my place. Up, I gotta show where I'm from, how they play it hard. Don't know why I thought that it would change. When I came in, it's true. Once you peep the facial loans, then you're cool. The way they play the game, flaw, I never do. Stay in your place, I'm like a paw to these little dudes. And we gon' give most out of praise, he brought me through it. My mind stay like anything, we can do it. We putting work up on this faith and we improve. I tried to tell them I ain't new to this. First we did it, now they doing it. Sticking to the manuscript. I think they follow the blueprint. Elohim sending me did not go. Tell my enemies to step it up. Tell the devil it ain't a no. Keep on going on and on and on and on and on. I'm fighting. Yeah, I'm fighting. I ain't letting no. I'm gonna keep on going on and on and on. It ain't a no. And on. Tell the devil it ain't a no. I'm fighting. Look at all what we done been through. We done overcame all that they pretend to. We don't fold, we don't bend. We knew we in due time, we would overcome. It's like a jungle sometimes. It made me wonder how I keep from going on. Can't experience, I don't worry. Most I said look up at the birds, think about it. Call them bird brain, but somehow they maintain. If I do that for them, if for you, don't you think I'ma do the same thing or more? Gratitude, grateful. He said no one gotta support you, I separate. Get two, walk together, let's stay agree. Be the hand, I be the knee. Don't matter to me, get on your job, no indeed. Don't wanna hear your sob story, no indeed. Teach you how to live this life for peace. Take the choice, blessings or curses. You know we in the week, and you can't stand next to me if you pretend. Before the 12, we ain't doing to the end. Let's go. I'm fighting, yes sir. I'm fighting. This the most going on and on and on.
trying to catch a vibe. Thinking about my people, it seems they all blind. They thinking they know the truth, but no, not up to 12. Try. Some say we a nation that's built up on tribulation. Some say we was taken and put in this situation. I say honestly, man, it's a little bit of both. Just take it from a nigga who parents native and Haitian. White folks stole my people's land, but we gon' take it back, cause the most I put the power in our hands. Yeah, we going straight reprimand, cause the people did us dirty and never got punished. From here to France, they out here preaching peace, but to us ain't none given. Convince us to protest, but disregard how we living. Well, soon y'all gon' know how we feeling. Yeah, how is Shy's coming back to prove to you that you ain't been forgiven. I'ma break it to you now that with this joint ain't no hook. The aristocrats on the mic pushing them words like a book. I'm anointed and I'm a saint and I got these niggas shook. I'm a Danite prince of the power and I can't be forsook. I think it's unfortunate that y'all couldn't face the facts. You so confused, you can't seem to break down Romans and Acts. When I teach, y'all got me losing all of my patience. Hear the word Israelite and then it turns to Galatians. Honestly, y'all need to do some investigating. My people acknowledge but still fighting for education. Broke them shackles off of my mind and set me free. Now, Father, y'all got me thinking immortal relation. Try and wake y'all up, but you suckers being complacent. Shot that nigga in the street, but how you grew up's adjacent. Take a nigga life for a little bit of wealth just to spend that shit and move back into your mama's basement. Now you become a Muslim so that your life don't get taken. Boy, assalamu alaikum, bean pies, green eggs, and bacon. Allah just a title, not the name of the Most High. You a Israelite, soon to be we see in Revelation. Hey, now they saying the prince is lyrical. I'm ruling this thing, but it ain't nothing empirical. Yahweh shots at the comforter, got me feeling spiritual. Yasha Allah on the rise, I ain't even hit the pinnacle. Hey, y'all know ain't too many better than I start varsity on this mic, I even got a letterman. Skills concrete solid, I ain't talking settlement. Reppin' the Anointed House, man, you know we killing it. Hey, this time around, y'all better get a ticket. This youngin' hit a bomb like the 96 Olympics. Mess with the men of the Lord, might end up in the clinic. We taking the kingdom soon, 1 hour, 0 minutes.
What's up, yo? Shalom, shalom. Put a 7 in the chat if you can hear me. Put a 7 in the chat if you can hear me. Let me look at it right quick. All right, cool. All right, y'all. All praises. Shalom. I'm your brother, all, the aristocrat. And today we have a little short lesson. I got a migraine, so I ain't going to be on here too long. And I'm by myself, so. Yeah, but I did want to bring you guys a little lesson update on the Gauls and Galatians and all that type of stuff, right? A little bit of a history update as far as Greece is concerned before we get more into that. I will have a lesson coming on who exactly Japhet is very soon, right? They are not the Edomites or the so-called white people or, you know, pasty Europeans. There's also going to be a lesson coming on the Celts, which we'll talk a little bit on the Celts in this lesson, obviously, because we have to, which you'll find out why it's obvious in a moment. But Galatians, put a 7 in the chat if you've heard of the Galatians before. Put a 7 in the chat if you've heard of the Galatians. What do I want? All right. Y'all heard of the Galatians. Okay. Put a 2 in the chat if you've heard of the Gauls. Gauls. Put a 2 in the chat if you've heard of the Gauls. Gauls. While y'all doing that, I'm gonna see if I can find this map right quick. If I can't, it's okay. But let me see. All right. I guess. Give me just a second, y'all. Hold on. I'm looking for something. But main reason I asked them 2 questions, right? As far as the Gauls and the Galatians, I see a lot of y'all put 7s. I ain't see nobody put a 2. So nobody's heard of the Gauls before. I wanted a 2 if you've heard of the Gauls and a 7 if you've heard of Galatians. So 7 for Galatians, 2 for Gauls. Let me know if you've heard of the Gauls before. If you heard of the Gauls, put a 2. If you have not, don't put nothing. Right? There we go. There are tears. There are tears. Yeah, this one. Little rabbit. Hold on. Let me see if there's a better one. Real quick. 2 seconds, y'all. 2 seconds. My bad. I just got here not too long ago, so I didn't get a chance to put a map up. I'll just use this one. Screw it. All right. Bow down. Okay. So we're good to go. All right. Bam. So first, now that I know who knows what, look like don't nobody know who the Gauls are, which is good. Okay. So put a 1 in the chat if you've ever seen Spartacus, the show from HBO. And while y'all doing that, put a 1 in the chat if you've ever heard or seen Spartacus, the show on HBO. Yes, I'm repeating things like Umar Johnson. I want to make sure y'all hear it. But while y'all doing that, let's give all honor and praise to the Most High Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shai. That is in the name of his son, Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus Christ. All right. So, all right. So y'all seen Spartacus, but y'all ain't never heard of the Gauls. That don't make no damn sense, bro. All right. You remember Crixus, the big head white boy that was smashing all the Roman ladies and stuff? Crixus was a Gaul. All right. Crixus was a Gaul. So Crixus, Spartacus, all them niggas was supposed to be black, right? Crixus was a Gaul, and the two brothers, I forget their names. One of them was tall, one of them was kind of short, one of them had short hair, one of them had long hair. But the two brothers, they was also Gauls, right? In the movie, they made everybody white except for the trainer of the gladiators, right? I forget that African dude name or Haitian, whatever the hell he is, but I forget that dude name, right? And he's like English. So, but that dude was the trainer. Everybody else in the movie was supposed to be black, but they made that junk in like 2009, so of course they wasn't being historically accurate back then in the movies. So, yeah, shalom to not. And shalom to everybody in the chat too. My bad. I forgot to say that. Shalom to y'all. You know, y'all hit the like button when y'all come in the building. Baba Cashapp, the water. Liking the video helps the channel. Doesn't just help me out. It don't help me out at all, actually. I don't get paid for this, in case y'all didn't know that. But yeah, it helps the channel, right? It helps keep the videos in the algorithm, not just my videos, but all the other videos, right? So if y'all don't like me, but y'all like the other brothers like Jonathan and Aharon and all the other brothers that be teaching on Saturday and the officers and everybody that be on Friday night, you know, liking the video also helps keep their stuff in the algorithm too, right? If y'all don't like, they don't get no help either. So that's how it works. We need y'all to continue to like and support the videos. All right, the water. So I asked you guys who the Gauls are. I asked you guys who the Celts are. Told you guys this isn't going to be a long class, and I promise you it's not, because like I said, I have a migraine that's making me want to blow my brain. So pause. Check this out. It says the Gauls were the first people to adopt the name Celt, right? I spelled that wrong. But yeah. In the 1st century BC, Roman leader Julius Caesar reported that the Gauls called themselves Celts, or in the Greek, Keloti, right? Or in the Latin, Celte, in their own tongue, which was Keloti, which I'll prove that in a little bit. Thus, whether it was given to them by others or not, it was used by the Celts themselves. And notice it uses Celts and Gaul interchangeably, right? So the Celts and the Gauls are indeed the same people. Let me show you this. If we were to type in, you know, different ancient Celtic tribes, got the Eastern Celts, got the Galatians, then you got the Gauls, which it says Galli or Celte because that's what they were called by themselves to themselves, right, by other people. But Galatians was also what they were called when they were in Galatia, which is what, Gaul became. So Gauls and Galatians are the same people. They're from the same region, right? And then there's other tribes. Cisalpine Gauls, which are mountain Gauls. Lepantine Celts, which I'm still trying to figure out who these are. Celto-Ligurians, right? They were Jake. No, I believe this was Esau, right? Hispanio Celts, that was Jake. And then Western Hispanio Celts, that was Jake. So these are different Celts, though, right? And just like with anything, Esau eventually attaches himself to the name, right? What I've been trying to explain to brothers about Greece is the first place that happened, right? So people think that white people just tried to become, Jewish, and that they've been pretending to be that since John Hyrcanus and everything like that, right? But no, it started way before John Hyrcanus. It started when they moved to Macedon, right? So the original Macedonians, as I tried to tell you guys, were Danites, right? It was Macedon, right? Macedon. Dan, Don, D-A-W-N, D-A-O-N, D-O-N, D-A-N. All those are all renditions of the word Dan, right? Which come from the tribe of Dan. So Dan moves there, even Dorian or Doric, right? That's a mix of the Milesians and the Danites coming together as the Dorians, right? You had the Dorian invasion, and then it becomes a whole Dorian dynasty. Something else to think about. When we get into the lesson on Japhet, right? I will be proving to you that Japhet would be, by and large, your Polynesian, Austronesian, and Melanesian people, right? That is not to say that there's no Israelites amongst those people, because there are. And it started with the Peloponnesian War, which we will talk about when we go through that lesson, right? But during the Peloponnesian War, for those of you guys that don't know, Peloponnesian is what the people of Japhet were actually called to themselves. So the people of Japhet did not call themselves Greeks, because the Greeks were Israelites that moved to Peloponnese, right? Or the Isles of the Gentiles. The people there called themselves Peloponnesian, right? So since we moved there, the war that we had is called the Peloponnesian War, because that's the war of the people that lived in the Peloponnese, right? Not Greeks. So they didn't become the Greeks until after we win the war as the Peloponnesians, right? And we become, since we're the Hellenes and we're the Greeks and everything like that, everybody becomes known as the Greeks. But this war goes from 431 to 404 BC, right? Can I zoom in on this? Ooh, I can. All righty. So look, beautiful. Can I? All right, y'all can see that. Heck yeah, y'all can see that. Let me move my visage out of the way. All right, so look, as you see on this, whoa there. Okay, whatever. Yeah. So as you see on this map here, right? You got Macedonia, right? Right here. Thessaly. This map is in Latin, but we'll still fix it, right? We're gonna get it to you. So this is Macedon right here. This is where Esau first takes over. Up here, we're getting into the Rhineland and Germany and stuff like that, right? Where they tell you the Celts come from, right? So there's Galatians and stuff like that up here. I'll get you a map of Galatia in a minute, but I just want to show you this so you can see how the migration happened. So Judah, as I told you, they come and take over this city here, Miletus, right? That's crazy that they got the big old black power fist right there too. That's wild. I never pulled this map up before. So, but Miletus is here, right? So this is where Judah mainly takes over. Very rich city and all that type of stuff. You can do your own research on Miletus or uh uh the Milesians, right? It's spelled Miletus, not OS, but nevertheless, right? So they have Miletus. You see here it's next to Samos, which is, the Samoans. But we'll prove that when we get to Japhet. So, that's where Samoan come from though. So, you got Andros and Petros and, yeah. Anyway, we'll get into all the Polynesian names and all that stuff like that later. So, you also see Ephesus right here, right? There's a lot of Negroes, Jake in Ephesus, a lot of Jake in Miletus, a lot of Jake in Notion, a lot of Jake in Lydia, a lot of Jake in Samos, right? And Samos, obviously, is also where a lot of the Athenians are, which would be the people of Japhet. If you look at can I scroll down? Boop. At the allies and everything like that, right? Because the way this war happened, just to give you guys a quick history lesson, right? It was us, the Spartans, us meaning, because I'm Dan, us, the Spartans, the Lacedaemonians, right? Lacedaemonian, however you want to say it, versus them on who was going to take the land over, because we got into a fight. And Peloponnesus, right? That's what they called this right here. You got Boeotia, Thessaly, which is, becomes Thessalonica and all that other stuff, right? So there's Negroes all throughout this place, but everything that's not purple, that's kind of orange color, is an Athenian ally or an Athenian state, right? The purple is us, Dan, right? And then yellow is where Judah and what you call it? Judah and the Athenians or Japhet was at, right? Miletus, even though they have it orange here, this is technically a yellow state because it's primarily Judah, right? So, same thing with Ephesus. So, and Thessaly. I have another map, but I didn't get to pull it up, so I'll pull up the more accurate map at another time. But that's just to show you guys that, right? When we go over the Japhet lesson, we'll go more into that stuff. But that's just to show you how the alliances happen. So once this war ends, the way it ends is some of the Judites that are on the side of the Athenians decide to just switch sides at the end of the war. Yo, it's time for us to go back to our brothers because they're gonna, have a problem with us if they end up beating our ass or whatever. So let's go back and make this overwhelming. And that's kind of what happened. They went back and fought with their brothers, made it overwhelming, and then kept alliances and everything like that with, Judah. Becomes the Doric states at that time. With Dan and Judah ruling Greece, right? That's when everybody becomes the Greeks. Everybody, this whole mass Hellenization thing goes on because the Greek gods were not the Japhetite gods, right? They had their own gods, which I prove. Like, for example, their god of water was Pelops, right? Our god of water was Poseidon, named after a Danite. So, like, yeah, two different gods. And when we get into the lesson, I'll also show you guys, like I showed the brothers over the weekend, that they still have their god, Pelops. They just gave him a little bit more of a tweakish name in Simone, right? But still sounds exactly the same. And it's just got one extra letter. That's it. But same attributes, same look, same everything, right? So, and of course, the Greek god, once again, not that guy, but Poseidon. And that what has become known, and that's what becomes known. That's what becomes all the different shrines. It becomes the Greek gods, right? That they have throughout Greece, not the Peloponnesian gods. You don't even know who the hell they are. So it's because we took over, we win the Peloponnesian War, and Dan ends up Hellenizing everybody. That's how it worked. After that, this same period, 400, while we're in a war with Japhet, somebody else is moving into the land. This is Thrace, this is Illyria, and this is Macedon. This would be connected to what you now call, like, the German states and stuff. If we look at the map, let me pull up Google Maps. Hold on 1 second. Google Maps. Hold on, let me pull this up for y'all right quick so y'all can see it on the map today. All right. Wow, that's crazy. How you doing? All right. So, powwow. All right. Okay, let's zoom out. All righty. So, if we cross the Bermuda in the North Atlantic Sea and all that other stuff, we get to Malta. Good old Malta. But all right, look. So, all these places up here, right, is what we now will call Cracker Land. Okay? Hungary, Romania, Slovenia, Croatia, right? All that stuff, right? So, notice how let me zoom out a little bit more. So, these right here, Caucasus, right? So, yeah, move out there, Caucasus, right. This is Greece. These are the eyes of the Gentiles. Now, what has to be known is Esau knew he could run to the Caucasus because, contrary to a lot of Israelites knowing this, they already had colonies out there, right? There were groups of Slavic barbarians that later called themselves Celts once they grafted themselves in, right? That came from this region here. Okay? I taught this in the lesson, how Anglo-Saxons and Danes made white people Slavs, right? If you remember the lesson, these people are already up here. When Dan goes to Scandinavia and then later comes to Germany and starts trading these people down what becomes known as the Danube River, it's still called that today. Why? Because Dan was the one trading them crackers all up and down and around that thing to the Arabs, right? And other crackers. And Jake, right? Because Judah ended up going up there, Premlicid, right? And taking over Russia and Kiev. So we'll go over that, though. We got the little PowerPoint. So, yeah, that's that, right? So they come trickling down before this happens, right? 400 BC, because they already got colonies over there. So they start trickling down into Macedonia, right? This is Greece. This is Athens. So, and look what that's called. North Macedonia. All right? So, that's just to show you guys. Okay? Now, if we go back to the map we were just looking at, it's good to know about maps, guys. It helps a lot when you're going over history. So, Macedonia. So, Illyria and Thrace would be, Hungary, Bulgaria, and all that other stuff we just saw, right? So, they start moving down from these places into Macedonia. Eventually, they take over the Macedonians. Why? Because all the strong men had left for the war against the Athenians. They are now at the headquarters in Lacedaemon, or what is now known as Sparta. Right? So all the strong men then came from here to there, right? And, well, yeah, that's how that works. So when you look at the Macedonians, they're supposed to be connected to Hercules and Samson and stuff. But everybody thinks the Macedonians are Alexander and Philip's people because, well, Philip comes from Macedonia. And then his son takes over as Alexander the Macedonian, right? So they think they come from Macedonia. That's because That's the first place they wrote themselves into the history. This is where they first played that playbook, right? After this, they become the Greeks because he's a Macedonian. So if the Greeks are Macedonians and the Donians are, Danites, then and they pretend to be the Macedonians by taking them over and writing themselves into the history, then naturally they become the Greeks too. And damn near Danites, unfortunately. So that's how that happens, right? Now, we go from that to them becoming Romans. Why? Because they know Greek was never theirs. So they gave themselves a name that actually was. And an even more specific name for themselves, right? Idumean, to denote their forefather, Esau, right? So that's the only time in this land, particularly, that they told people who the hell they actually were, right? And that's only because they were connected to Judea. So they had to make like a little bit of a separation to connect. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to this. So, point I'm making is they weren't always Greeks or Macedonians. They moved into that land and made themselves such, just like they moved into Israel and made themselves Judeans, right? So that's how that works. Israel is not the first place that they played that. It started here, right? So that's that. Just wanted to show you all that map and harp on that so that you guys know they're not the Greeks. We were the Greeks. The Greeks were Northern Kingdom Israelites from the tribe of Dan originally, right? Then it becomes, once the Dorians come into play, Danites, Danins, and Milesians, or people from Miletus, who were Judah, Benjamin, Levi, right? A little bit Levi, but mainly Judah, Benjamin, right? So they come together, become the Dorians, and now they're Greeks. Once they win the Peloponnesian War, everybody's Greek, right? So then they lose to the Persians, and the Persians take them over, but allow them to keep their city-states, which we'll talk about. That's how they still got all the Greek names still, and the Greek culture still exists, because Persia was a very lenient leader, right? Shout out to the Elamites and the Midianites. So that's how that works, right? And we go from Persia to the damn barbarians. So everything changed, and then they become the Romans. You notice when we took back over as Septimius Severus and Persinius Niger, right? Niger, they become Greeks again, right? The language goes from Latin, which is a Roman language, to Koine Greek again, which is an Israelite language, right? So that's what I've been trying to teach people, but I don't know. It's hard for Israelites to get it. Lack of historical understanding. But another attempt we will make. So let's get to PowerPoint. Actually, before I do that, let me show you guys this. So we showed you guys that the Celts are Israelites. One thing that you'll see Afrocentrics doing, they're finding out about this information and they're trying to give them names because they don't know about us being the Israelites and speaking Hebrew. So they've made up a term called Baratanak, right? Which they claim is Phoenician for land of 10. And that's what they claim Britain comes from, right? Because of the Tain at the end of Britain. They're trying to say that it means land of 10 and that the Phoenicians called it Baratanak, right? But in order to get this Google search, you have to even know what the word Baratanak is or to even know it exists. So, yeah. But if you were to just look up, what does Britain mean, right? Well, it's going to give you an answer that an Israelite would give you because that is the actual correct answer, historically speaking. Brit, or Brit, as you would say in English, right, means covenant. In what language? Hebrew, right? When you put on as a suffix at the end of something, like electron or function or action, it's just the ending that connects something. So Briton, it's Greek, by the way. It's a Greek suffix that you put at the end of something when you're making it a noun. So acting is a verb. But when you're making an act a noun, it's action. So lights, camera, action, right? So like on is a Greek suffix, right? Mind you, the Greeks are also these same people. But as I've been saying, Briton, Brit on, it's just covenant with the Greek suffix at the end. It means covenant or people of the covenant, if you will, right? What covenant do you speak of? Well, the biblical covenant, i.e., the Hebrew name, Brit or Brit, right? Understood? Y'all get that? Makes sense? All righty. Y'all get that man out the chat if he don't understand his, because I ain't making up nothing. You see, I'm proving everything I'm saying. We will prove some more. In fact, don't let him go nowhere. If he's gonna make comments, just make sure his comments don't distract nobody. You know what I'm saying? But he can stay and listen and learn like everybody else. So Brit means covenant, right? That's what Britain means. Now, if I were to look up another search on the Britain meaning covenant people, what is a Brit? In Hebrew, the word Brit means covenant or promise. It indicates a two-day relationship, such as the relationship between God and the Jewish people. Okay? So this was to denote a relationship between God and the Jewish people. What were the name of the Jewish people that went to found Britain called? Angels or angels, right? Angelic sons of Isaac, Anglo-Saxons, right? Who are the angelic sons of Isaac? The sons of Isaac that are considered angels or angelic people, or the host of heaven, or the sons of God, or the gods on earth. They are the Israelites. Isaac had two sons, right? But only one matters. We ain't even gonna name the other guy. Screw him. But the Anglo-Saxons were black people, says the book from 1906 called The Origins of the Anglo-Saxon Race. Critically acclaimed bestseller, one of the best historical books of all time. It's also backed up by actual historical pictures from France, Britain, Germany, which we will show, and Russia, Poland, Kiev. We will show Bulgaria. We will show in this lesson today before I get up off the screen. For the guy that thinks we're teaching false history. It's crazy. Like I must have drew all the pictures that I'm about to show too. And all the history and all the books that they come from. I wrote them myself, right? You damn duck monkey. But it's all good. Man. All right. So let's read this first. My bad. Here we go. All right. So, Saxony and Prussia at the present day. Some of the darker winds, if you know what a wind is, put your hand in the chat, may well have been among the Black Vikings. The what? Referred in the Irish annals. The what? The annals of Ireland speak about niggas? How dare they teach such false history? Oh, man, I'd hate to find out if Dublin is named after niggas, as well as those of Wales. There was black people in Wales. There's black Walsh niggas. How dare they make such false history? And may have been the people who have left the Anglo-Saxon name Blackman Burke. Sounds German, don't it? which occurs in one of the charters. Blackman Stone on the Kentish coast. That's the UK, England, for the white guy in the chat. Blackman Stone on the Dorset coast. That's also England. As late as the time of Doomsday Survey, which was in the 1000s, after their dark complexions, Buckinghamshire, which still exists today, that's named after niggas. Blackmen, named after niggas. The place called Latham, named after niggas in my family. Swartness, which is where King James' name comes from. Stuart and Swart are one and the same. One is English and one is German. Swartness is German. And others are mentioned in Sussex, which is, the UK. One named Black in Suffolk, Black Menace, and Stortingus. Yeah. Stort, Swartingus, and others at Lincoln. How about that? Abe got his name from a nigga. The invasion, and they called him the first black. Never mind. Let me stop. The invasion of the coast of the British Isles by Vikings of a dark or black complexion rests on historical evidence. Historical evidence? What you mean? 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 Historical evidence. That's crazy. Rest on historical evidence. Rest on historical evidence, which is too circumstantial to admit of doubt. Because we just seen the gosh darn picture, you damn duck monkey. In the Irish Annals, a book about Ireland, and the makings of Ireland, and the beginnings of Ireland, and the people who founded Ireland, one of which they show you as a man named Fergus Moore, right? Moore meaning black, and Fergus being black. There he is, right there. Fergus Moore. But we'll show you that in a little bit. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me go back. So, in the Irish Annals, the black Vikings are called Dubginty. Let's scroll down. In the year 851, these black Gentiles came to Athlica, right? Because Athlica comes from Athens, which are the people that first named this place what it was called because they were the Athenians. But we'll get to that in a little bit. These people, who we know as the Danes, the black Danes, the Dubginty, right? The black Gentiles. Why were they called black Gentiles? Because the black people known as the Anglo-Saxon that called them Gentiles were God-fearing people that felt these people were not, because instead of fearing the Most High, their God, and becoming Christians like they were, they were following Odin, a Danite, and Poseidon, and Zeus and Hercules and Athenia, and all them other people that were Israelites that were also black. Right? Yeah. And that's why they made Hercules the Rock, because they know they can find the same history I'm reading to you now. In order to be historically accurate, they put Denzel Washington in the movie as Marcus Severus, right? Severus being the same last name as the guy that played the gladiator that killed Marcus Severus, because they didn't tell you in the movie that historically those guys were cousins. So that guy should have been black too. But again, that's history that probably goes over a lot of y'all head. So I'm gonna calm down now and shut the hell up. But yeah. So the Black Ginty is where Dublin comes from. Dublin, Ireland. Yep. That's it. Mm-hmm. Yep. Uh-huh. And these people are known as the Northmen and the Danes. Right? Yeah, that's them. So Vikings, right, were our people. Like Harold the Black. You want to see Harold? You want to see Harold? You want to see Harold? Harold was called the Harold the Black because he had black hair. Yeah. Yeah. Black hair. Black hair. Harold had black hair. He did have black hair and a black face. Hold up. Whoa. My bad. I need to zoom out. Harold had black hair and a black face. See, they got fake Harold and they got real Harold. See? Harold and Harold. Which one's real? Same picture. Just like they did with King James. Right? Y'all want to see King James? Why all the Jacobus pictures got Jacobus on it? They all make these same type of pictures, right? You might think they are like related or something. I don't know. It's crazy, right? This guy's a Danite. This is Henry. This guy's a Danite. This is Louis. Louis and Henry are, they're grandfather and son, distantly. Great grandfather and son, right? And then you got King James, their cousin on the other side, right? You got House of Stuart and House of Bourbon. Stuart meaning black or swart, right? Swart, Stuart, black. Bourbon or bourbon, brown. like the alcohol you drink, dummy. Yeah. It's named after black people. That's why it's brown. It looks like us. Yeah. All right. So, where were we? This is fun, guys. I'll be having fun when people say stuff like that. So, back to the whole Gaul thing, right? So, in this lesson, y'all might not remember, but it's just crazy. It's just crazy, sis. It just be crazy. Like, it just be crazy. But, so we talked about the Gauls, right? In the Celts. Showed you how Julius Caesar literally writes down in his memoirs and reported that the Gauls called themselves Celts. We looked up the different Celtic tribes, and Galatians and Gauls pops up. And we know from the Bible that there were definitely Israelite Galatians. I'm telling you that the Galatians were Israelites. That's it. They were Israelites, right? Yes, there were some people at Japhet that lived in Gaul, but the Galatians were Israelites. It was a mix of Judah and Israel, Judah and Dan. Well, that's still Judah. You know what I'm saying? The Danites and the people of Judah that moved over there too. Okay, that's who it was. They became the Gauls, which eventually became the first group of Celtic people, right? So all them little Celtic chains and the little Celtic jewelry that a lot of y'all niggas was into before y'all became Israelites, y'all was into it because it's our stuff too. Okay? So don't feel bad. You're not white. You just didn't know what you was doing. That's all. But just to read you a little bit, Gaelic is the language of the Gauls. They made their own language, right? According to history. But as I showed you when we first did this lesson, the Gaelic language is not just a language. The reason it doesn't exist anymore is because Paleo-Hebrew doesn't exist anymore, and Gaelic and Hebrew are related, right? So then, after 193 AD, went from Ireland, right, along with Judah. I need to add Judah to this because I forgot to. And I told you guys I was going to do that when I first did it, but I never went back and did it. I lied. But Salaki. So this supposed, you know what? We just fixed the problem right there. Look at that. Now I ain't got to keep there. All right. There it is. So Dan and Judah, after 193 AD, went to Ireland first, right? Which is what the Annals of Ireland is also telling you, and ruled as Danites, but left after 200 years to go to Germany, right? And Dan themselves went to Denmark. So in Germany and also in Ireland, in this little area that we were looking at, where Macedon is, which I'll go over because when I made this PowerPoint, I hadn't done as much history research as I have now. So I can tell you a lot more now than what's actually in the PowerPoint as of yet, because it will be, updated very soon. But for the Japhet lesson. But as far as after this 200 years, once they go to Germany, right? obviously there were some still in the area. They're already speaking this Gaelic language, which, if you do the research, this source particularly that I got this quote from was originsofthenations.org. But it says there is much evidence to suggest that Gaelic and Hebrew are similar, and no people in Germany, Ireland, or Scotland speak this language today, because the people in them places right now ain't us. You feel me? So it's not a language they were speaking. Therefore, it's not a language they were able to hold on to, right? The Russians still speak Old Russian, but they don't speak Gaelic because Old Russian was a language that they made that. We just adopted it. We moved over there. Gaelic was ours. Once we left, they left with us. Just like Paleo Hebrew. Once we left, they left with us. You feel what I'm saying? Once they beat the languages out of us and we couldn't speak our language no more, now they don't have it. They had to make a new contemporary Hebrew, right? So that's what it is. So same thing with Gaelic, right? Because Gaelic is connected to Paleo Hebrew. Gaelic being a Celtic language, right? Galatians, Gauls, Thessalonians, Ephesians, right? It shares similarities with other Indo-European languages, which would be the people I just named. Those are Indo-Europeans that they don't share. This is due to us developing language over our trade together, right? Genesis 9:27. With Javon and all them people too, because of course Japhet was able to speak these languages with us because we were technically in their land, just taking stuff over. So yeah, I just want to show you guys the similarities in the language as well, and that language that the Celts spoke, which would be Gaelic, the Celtic language, is a language that's connected to Hebrew. So they were indeed Israelites originally, before the white people took the name and tried to take the heritage too, right? There was a culture called the Hellstat culture, right? That was the culture of the Celts. It's basically like hunter-gatherer culture in England with horses and stuff like that. Horseback hunter-gatherer nomad type culture, right? That's what the Celtics or the Celts I said the Celtics. That's what the Celts used to participate in, right? That was their main lifestyle. And of course, Esau had that lifestyle too. So once they moved into the area, it was easy for them to move into the places with the Celts and help them out until they eventually took them over. So that's how that worked, right? But people like the Etruscans and the Minks and the Celts, right? They're all the same people. They're all Celts, Galatians, Gauls, right? Israelites. So that's that. But it's a mix between Judah and Dan. So it's not just one or the other separation like it was before the Doric state. You know what I'm saying? This is when we start coming together after the Peloponnesian War. So that's that. So just for the people that haven't seen the PowerPoint before, I will show these pictures and then I'm gonna leave. So let me show this. So we have Dan pull up in the land. Talked about apotheosis before, which is in Greece. They took the idol worship to another level. Javon had a practice called apotheosis, which is in the Greek mythology, when mortals went through a process to become gods. So, for example, Hercules, as you'll find out, is, well, a story of a man named Samson who went through the process of apotheosis after Japhet found out about them, right? So Dan goes to the land. According to the AI overview on the word Hercules and where it comes from, tells you that the Greek name Hercules originates from the Hebrew word Heraclim. And I also showed you guys when I did this lesson, you could go and look at it. I showed you guys the article. That's why it says go to the article from science.com, where science.com actually, they, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically verify that is exactly where it came from, and that it's a Danite name, and that Samson was a Danite person, obviously, and that Hercules derives strictly from him. So, but yeah, the Greek name Hercules may have originated from the Hebrew word Heraclim, which was the name of the merchantmen of the Danite tribe. The Danites were a seafaring tribe that may have come into contact with the Mycenaean world. which Mycenaeans are Japhet, right? So that is that. Once we become, people that take over the Mycenaeans and the Minoans and all them other people, there's another people that move into this place called Miletus, who history calls the Milesians. They are known to us as Judah and Benjamin. They settled in Ireland and Greece in 1000 BC, right? Some of them were Spartans as well because they moved into Sparta. But as I can now confirm, that was during the Peloponnesian War, 431 to 403 BC. So, after the fall of Rome, 193 AD, many went back and began to establish colonies in Ireland, Scotland, Wales under the name Anglo-Saxon. Some also began to go to Germany with Dan, the split into groups called Danes, Jutes, Gauls, and later Franks, right? And there's other groups too, like Scythians and stuff like that we'll talk about. But and the Trishkins and all that other stuff. All of those was different little groups of us that broke off and did our own little thing, right? So some of us ended up tag teaming with Ishmael. Some of us ended up tag teaming with Esau. Some of us ended up tag teaming with Moab and Attila and the Hun and all of them people when they pulled up. Like a bunch of different stuff happened. We was just alliances all over the place, except with our own people after this time period, right? And yeah, that's how that happens. So as you see, there's something here tells you about the story of the Milesians. The Milesians were a final race to settle in Ireland, were the final race to settle in Ireland, Slovakia, and their king was Miletus, right? Which is the name where the name Miletus comes from. His queen, Scotia, right? Or black, Scott, Scotia. This is where Scotland comes from in the name of the Scots, because they move over there, right? His sons were Eberfin and Aramon, right? So Hebrew, fair Hebrew, beautiful Hebrew. That's what that means, because Fin meant fair, right? That's what the light-skinned people was called. So Hebrew, beautiful Hebrew is literally what this brother's name would translate to. And Aramon, right? Who later become rulers of Ireland. And here's more information about the Milesians and their kings. And then it gave you more information. But as you see, there is a red lion. What is the lion for? First, the Milesians, the Milesian kings were said to be from the line of Zerah, and they incorporated the red lion. Wow. Which along with the red hand are symbols that rep the left out line of Judah through Zerah, while rulers that we know of, as to say, were from the line of Perez, and they used the gold line. So that's how that worked. And depending on, there were rulers from Benjamin, of course, like James and his people, that also used the gold line. Some would use a blue. So the line from Judah would use blue nails or red nails, and Benjamin would use black nails. So that's where you get that stuff from, right? Dan and Judah. After 193 AD, yeah, okay, I read this. This was the Gaelic joint. So I went over the Dub Gaul and the Fingal thing. So white Vikings and black Vikings, right, from Scandinavia. Me and Knock also went over how Vikings did not have blonde or red hair. It was a soap, a lye dye, if you will, from a soap made from fat and animal skins that would change black people's hair either gold or red, depending on the original hue, right? Guessing if you was light skinned and your hair would kind of light brown a little bit, when you look in the light, them light skinned people hair ain't really black, it'd be brown if you black, right? So like, yeah, their hair would turn gold. If you black with like a blackish brown hair, your hair would turn a reddish hue. And it would be done in a way where they would try to do it based off of structure, of who you were in the community. If you were a straight warrior, you go out to war, you're gonna have red hair. Dye your junk the day before. If you was somebody of stature that's also a warrior and your hair go gold, you gonna put the fats in your hair to make your hair gold, right? That's how that would work. So it wasn't white people with blonde hair or red hair, right? And I'll show that again when we do the lesson on Japhet. I'm just trying to keep it quick because my hair hurt. So, but yeah, if y'all look that up, you'll definitely see it. Y'all can hit the AI mode, or y'all could go look up the sources and stuff like that. Once it give it to you, it will explain all of that stuff for you, right? But these are different places that we took over as the Fingal in the Dub Gaul. But Salakia. These are places that were already run by the Anglo-Saxons, so Judah was already living there because they moved over there pretty early. So started colonies over there pretty early, rather. But yeah, just to get the pics. So got William the Conqueror, the tribe of Dan, Northman, right? Fake William, the white guy, right? These are the Northmen that pulled up to Ireland, them black Gentiles, right? As you see, they tried to bleach the picture a little bit, but you can tell everybody in here is a black man. So more pictures where these people come from. Denmark. These are their kings, right? These are black people. And you see they got fake images of the black people here. But there's real pictures. Like that's Eric of Denmark, where I get my name from. And he's a nigga. This is Siegfried. That's Richard. That's Christopher. And that's Harold, the guy we were talking about earlier, right? These are sons and family members of the man named Ragnar Logbrough, right? Who was also black, right? So he's a Danite. And we went through the Byzantine Empire, all that stuff, right? The Kievan Rus Empire. That's Paul. You know what I'm saying? Saint Clement, Peter. Black guys, right? The real Saint Nick. The Russian icons of the three holy hierarchs, Basil, Gregory, and John, in that order. I forget what this brother name. Saint Clovis, I believe, but I forget. I know this is. Oh, that might be Vladimir. While I'm playing, that might be Vladimir. In fact, is that what that says? Yeah, I think that's Vlad. That's Vlad. This the man who started Russia and Kiev and made the Russian icons. He the black guy on the cover of the Russian icons. That's Saint Vladimir. He the first Russian ruler, right? His sons are the ones that made Kiev, which this is them right here. This him old. That's an old ass man, right? One of his sons killed the other two. They didn't put him in the picture, but these are the two sons that got killed, and this is him, right? So, but yeah, this is Boris of Bulgaria, right? A cousin of theirs that moves over there. This is Frederick Niger, right? This is the coin of Matthias. So this is Saint Maurice of France, Ivan the Terrible of Russia, right? Yeah, the most terrible ruler to ever rule Russia, worse than Vladimir Putin, wasn't a white guy. He was big black, right? Terrorizing the hell out them white people. Shout out to Ivan. I feel his spirit. You know what I'm saying? I commend his spirit. Shout out to Ivan the Terrible and his son. But yeah, that's another picture of Vladimir, the guy that started Russia, right? This is Joanne, the Archduchess of Austria, right? And this is King James' daughter, and of Bohemia. All right. These are all black people. This is not history I made up. Now we get to the Bourbons, right? This is Henry. This is Louis the 13th. Or no, this is the 14th. The 13th was the picture I showed you before. This Louis the 14th. This Louis the 15th. This Louis the 16th. Right? That's the one that got his head chopped off and Napoleon took over and put all black people in slavery. He's the guy that allowed the black codes to happen and let all them black people come to the Americas free and move to Louisiana that was named after him. It was a free black colony in this slave country. And then Napoleon killed his ass after starting a coup and made a bunch of lies about him and his wife. Both of them got their heads chopped off in the freaking court in front of everybody. Napoleon took over and then put all the black people that was free in captivity. And that's how the Louisiana Purchase happened. They just don't tell you that part in school. But, yeah, that's that. So they're the Bourbon dynasty, right? And the man that started the dynasty was this smiley face nigga right here, Henry the Fourth, right? And this is the 13th Louis, right? The richest of them all, I will say. So that's James and that's James, right? And this is James from Cambridge University Studies, right? Early modern British history. Yeah. So this is just a nice picture where we was ruling and you crackers was all hairy and stuff, and we showing y'all coming from the mountains and us ruling over y'all, right? You got the Black Knights because we were the knights, hence the word Black Knight. I found out I come from one of the most prominent ones. Shout out to Robert. Yeah, we used to run Lancaster Castle, hence the name the Aristocrat. But I have ancestor named Robert de Latham that was the custodian of Lancaster Castle, right? So he was the Black Knight and used to knight everybody. He was the custodian like 4 different times. So, yeah. And then they became like real estate motherfuckers over there. That's how yeah. Anyway, so that's that. A lot of y'all can look up your history, man. It's still possible to find it. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to search for the, house of your fathers and stuff like that and their history and everything. That Job 8 and 8. But, yeah, the Edomites rebuild. That's why a lot of this stuff is gone. But this is how they started, right? This is how they came to the land. And when you go into Scotland, which y'all remember that Scotland lesson we did, we showed you guys how this is how that started, right? This is the legendary Fergus the First. This is Kent or Kenneth the Third. Malcolm the Third. That's why you ain't never met no black or no white Malcolm, right? I don't know no white Kenneth, and I don't know no white Malcolm, and I don't know no white Cornelius. Still to this day, if I'm lying, I'm flying. And I think I don't know any of them because they make us think they're names that belong to them because they're the ones that live in them places now. But we were the ones that started them places. We made them names famous, right? This was Robert the Bruce or Robert the Black because that's what Bruce mean. Bruce mean black. But, this is the only picture of him that exists now because they burned all of them. So I had to give you that one. But these black images, mind you, were found on the Getty. So they're public record, right? They're not hidden from history. So that's that for you. All right. So hope y'all enjoyed the lesson. I ain't got nothing else for y'all. But like I said, we will be doing a lesson on Japhet. We'll be doing a lesson on the Celts, more deep dive in depth. And yeah, we're going to cover all of Greece so that y'all have a full understanding of who they are and why it was important for Paul to go through that place and why Paul was even born in Tarsus in the first place. Why it was so many Israelites in them areas and slavery wasn't even really going on like that at the time. It's because most of us were from there. They didn't do a mass transportation colony switch up during the time of the Macedonians and Alexander and the Romans and stuff. You know what I'm saying? If that was the case, then Deuteronomy 28:68 would have happened before that. Do you see all that water over there? Right? It didn't happen because we already lived in those lands. They didn't have to put us on ship to take us into captivity over there. All they had to do is take over the land. You become the king, you rule the people, they listen to what you say. That's how it worked. Same thing with the Persians before them. The Persians didn't come and move all Persians into the land of Greece. They just took over. They killed Leonidas, who was the king after the Peloponnesian War, right? The Danite king, that is. You seen 300, right? They take out Leonidas, and then that's it. They take out Ari, then the Persians win. Leonidas, Ari done, both of them out the way, right? So that's it. Persians win. Alexander didn't have to touch Israelites in Greece. He took up the Persians and then just took over whatever they had, which they already had control over Greece. So that's how it happened. We didn't get moved over there into that land in captivity. We already lived over there. We were already making our moves over there. Dan started it. Then a couple of Judites moved over there. You can read it in the book of Ezekiel and the book of Judges. We started moving over there in the book of Ezekiel for the Philistines, doing trade with them and stuff like that, right? And we ended up getting cool with Javon. Javon's going back and forth with us. We're going back and forth with them, and we end up starting colonies there. That's what happened, historically speaking, right? The Bible touches a little bit on it, but history touches all the way on it. So much so that we got so cool with Javon, brothers ended up splitting between the two of them. Some of Judah picked Athens or Japhet, right? And some of Dan picked Japhet. But then Dan was also by himself as the Greeks. And then some of Judah picked Dan too. And at the end, Judah and Dan end up coming together in one. And then they become Dorians, right? Miletus becomes one of the most richest places in all of Greece, which is where the kings was at, Judah, Benjamin, right? And then they take their riches and move to Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. How about that? How did King James become number 6 in the line of kings? Well, he's 6 in his line of kings. As I showed you in the lesson, there was more kings before that. They just was in Scotland first, right? And the people in Scotland would rule Ireland from Scotland. Just like when King James became king, he ruled Ireland, Scotland, Wales from England, right? That's how it worked. That was the geography of the hierarchy in the land. You didn't have to be on the soil to run it. It was based on who ruled the empire. You feel me? So that's all I can tell you. If you can't understand that, I don't know what to say. Go watch a King and Generals video or something. And even though it's all going to be white people, that guy might be able to help you understand it a little bit better. But yeah, that's all I got today. So the Gauls and Galatians are Israelites. Celts, originally, the original Celts are Israelites. They all spoke Gaelic Hebrew, which is a language nobody speaks today because it's founded from Paleo Hebrew. It's a Proto-Sinaitic language from Indo-Europe, right? An Indo-European Proto-Sinaitic language, something they told you didn't exist. But even AI told you Gaelic is Hebrew. So that means it does. Because Gaelic originally, according to them, is a German language or an Irish language, right? Which Germany and Ireland are two different places, but somehow it's a German and an Irish language. The only people to go to Germany and Ireland were them black Anglo-Saxons and them Danes that went to Germany and Ireland, right? So they would be the ones speaking Gaelic and Hebrew. So happened that the Danes and the Anglo-Saxons are the angelic sons of Isaac, which would make them Israelites who speak Hebrew. See how the dots connect? I love history. But that's all I got for y'all, man. Hope y'all enjoyed the lesson. Hit the like button when you come in the building if you haven't already. Share the video, like the rest of the classes, and watch the rest of the classes that are going to be coming on throughout the week because they're going to be good. All right? And I'll see y'all later. Shalom.